Chapter 16 British Raj and Beyond. India is one of the oldest civilizations. It flourished and prospered at a time when other contemporary civilizations faded away. Its trade, commerce, education, and society reached new heights of success with the passage of time. India had flourishing trade links. India's fabled wealth attracted many European trading companies. Age of Exploration. During the Age of Exploration that started around the 15th century, every European country dreamt of reaching India. It was considered to be the golden bird in the world. Many expeditions were launched to explore India. South America was discovered accidentally by Christopher Columbus in his pursuit to find India. Search of India. The Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama was the first European to reach India by the sea route. He traveled for a long time and discovered a new sea route through the Cape of Good Hope. This route opened new avenues of trade for the European countries. This was a period of exploration for all the European countries. They competed with one another for control over trade in India. The spices and cotton traded from India were one of the valuable items in Europe. The Portuguese, British, French, and Dutch all wanted to establish trade links with India. In the beginning, they fought fiercely amongst themselves for control over trade with India. In this competition, the British emerged victorious. Establishment of the English East India Company. To trade with the East, the British merchants established the English East India Company with the permission of the Queen of England. Its purpose was to trade with India. The company started its trade from Surat and later expanded it to the rest of India. The company soon became greedier to gain more profits. Aurangzeb was the last powerful ruler of India. After his death, the Mughal Empire started to crumble. This did not go unnoticed by the English East India Company. The English East India Company started to expand its military base to gain control over Indian territories. Bengal was the most prosperous state at that time, and the British now wanted to control it. The Battle of Plassey and the Battle of Buxar. The Battle of Plassey was an outcome of the English East India Company's desire to take control of Bengal. It took place in 1757. The British had started building a strong army which was resisted by the Nawab of Bengal, Siraj-ud-Dowlah. In the Battle of Plassey, the Nawab was defeated, captured and killed. Another battle known as the Battle of Buxar took place in 1764. It brought Bengal completely under British control. The British became the masters of Bengal, and it marked the beginning of the colonial rule of the English East India Company in India. The British formulated many unfair policies to conquer the princely states. These states were small territories which had become weak due to the constant wars with the neighboring kingdoms. Subsidiary alliance was a policy introduced in 1798 by then Governor-General of English East India Company, Lord Wellesley. This policy gave military protection to the princely states who entered into subsidiary alliance. However, it forbade the princely states to keep any army of their own. This policy forced the princely states to accept the English East India Company as the supreme power in India. Doctrine of lapse was a policy devised by Lord Dalhousie, who was India's Governor-General. It empowered the English East India Company to take control of a princely state whose ruler had died without leaving a son. This policy did not recognize adopted sons as the rightful heirs to the throne. The Great Revolt of 1857. Gradually, not only the Indian rulers but the common masses also became discontented with the English East India Company. This discontent led to the Great Revolt of 1857. The main reasons for the revolt are as follows. Discontent among the Indian people. The farmers were greatly oppressed by the British. The company levied heavy taxes on the farmers and did not give any relief in times of floods and droughts. The farmers were forced to grow cash crops such as cotton and indigo. This led to famines as food crops were in short supply. The British forced the farmers to sell their crops at very low prices, which left them poorer than ever. The artisans were greatly affected by the exploitative industrial and important policies of the British. The British bought cheap raw materials from India, processed them at low cost in their factories in England and sold them at heavy profit in India. They imposed heavy taxes on Indian goods. Thus, Indian goods become more expensive than English goods. This policy completely destroyed the weavers and other artisans of India. The Indian traders and industrialists were also deliberately destroyed by the British. The British imposed heavy taxes on industrial production and exports. Only unprofitable items of trade were allowed to be traded by the Indians. The British monopolized the Indian market completely. Religious causes. The British tried to convert people of India to Christianity. This was viewed by the Indians as an insult to their religious sentiments. This led to a lot of anger in the common people. Military causes. The Indian soldiers or sepoys in the company army were paid less and treated badly. This made the Indian sepoys angry. By the mid-19th century, most of northern India was ready to raise the banner of protest against the British operation. Some Indian rulers like Nana Sahib, Tatya Tope, Rani Lakshmibai and Begum Hazrat Mahal united under the last Mughal emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar as their leader. Immediate cause. The revolt of 1857 broke out in the military camp of Meerut. The British had introduced new rifles called Enfield. A rumor spread that the cartridges were greased with the fat of cows and pigs. The soldiers had to bite off the ends of the cartridges to load the new rifles. This angered both the Hindu and the Muslim soldiers. This is because the Hindus regard the cow as holy and the Muslim consider the pig as unclean. The soldiers thus refused to use these bullets, and on being pressurized, soldiers revolted and started a mutiny. That is why the revolt is also known as Sepoy Mutiny. Results of the revolt. The revolt spread rapidly to a large part of northern India and then to central India. Unfortunately, it was crushed by the British. This is because the British had superior weapons and a big army. Moreover, many Indians also supported the British. Bahadur Shah Zafar, the leader of the revolt, was captured and exiled. Other leaders like Nana Sahib and Rani Lakshmibai were also killed. Reasons for the failure of the revolt. Lack of unity among the people led to the failure of the revolt. Many Indians had sided with the British and did not support those who had revolted. Weak leadership of Bahadur Shah Zafar was another reason for the failure of the revolt. The last Mughal emperor was not able to unite the people under one flag. He also failed to inspire them to fight for the independence of India from the British rule. Lack of discipline and military training and equipment was an important reason for the revolt's failure. The Indian rebels were ill-trained and ill-equipped against the trained British army. After the revolt of 1857, the revolt was viewed as a failure of the English East India Company to govern the country. The power and responsibility to rule India was transferred from the company to the British Crown. The British Crown decided not to interfere with the religious and social beliefs of the Indians. The revolt sowed the seeds of nationalism. Many Indian leaders were inspired by the revolt of 1857, for it gave them hope that the British were not unbeatable. The Indian freedom movement was a result of that hope.